Jumbo the elephant was captured in 1861 in an African jungle. It doesn't say which country, nobody really knows, but Jumbo was taken to Cairo and then sold to a zoo in Paris, and that zoo sold Jumbo to a zoo in London. And Jumbo grew to be the largest animal in captivity at the time, so he was in high demand. For 2 decades, the Royal Zoological Society in London had Jumbo giving rides to children day after day after day. Hundreds of thousands of children rode on Jumbo. Now, Barnum heard about Jumbo's size and wanted him since the moment he knew about him, and offered the Zoological Society $10,000. They repeatedly turned him down, but after 2 decades, Jumbo started to throw some uncharacteristic temper tantrums, as they called it. He was tired of having to be a horse for children every day. Out of fear that Jumbo's tantrums would grow worse, the zoo finally accepted Barnum's offer. And to grow the hype of bringing Jumbo to America, Barnum actually started rumors in London that Londoners were being tricked out of the Jumbo sale. Like, he started the rumor that he got Jumbo for a steal, and that London shouldn't be giving up Jumbo so easily. And it worked. By the thousands, Barnum started to get letters from London begging him to not go through with the Jumbo. And businesses in America were starting to make Jumbo souvenirs because he was already famous even before arriving. Barnum purposefully leaned into being the jerk of the scenario because it just made Jumbo even more famous. Like, oh, he's being sold against his will to this evil American man. We have to save Jumbo, save Jumbo. And Barnum absolutely capitalized off of this. Barnum moved forward with building a giant cage on a ship to carry Jumbo across the sea to America. But when Jumbo came aboard, he refused to get into the cage. And all of Barnum's workers wrote Barnum, panicked, being like, what are we gonna do? He is refusing to cooperate. And Barnum said, let him refuse. Keep him on the boat, let him sit on his butt. It'll make the story even greater. Now Jumbo himself doesn't even want to go to America. And again, this tactic worked so well that Parliament and the Queen got involved. The Queen was practically begging Barnum to let Jumbo stay in London. And Barnum still said, no, a deal's a deal. Jumbo's coming to America. I bought him fair and square. Jumbo had a keeper since he was a baby named Matthew Scott, and Scott was Jumbo's best friend. Jumbo loved him. And to finally convince Jumbo to get in the cage, Matthew Scott said, why don't I come along? Because really, he didn't want to part with Jumbo either. That was also his best friend. When Matthew Scott got into the cage, Jumbo followed right along, and off to America they went. When Jumbo arrived on American soil, he was already a celebrity, and Jumbo paid for himself in his first 3 weeks of working for Barnum. He was bringing in $3,000 a day. Once in America, Jumbo never threw a temper tantrum ever again. He really enjoyed the circus rather than parading children around all day. But Barnum had an official taxidermist named Henry A. Ward, and in 1883, Ward requested that upon Jumbo's death, because Jumbo was the most famous animal worldwide at this point, upon Jumbo's death, Ward wanted to be the one to stuff him. And Barnum said, God forbid he die, but absolutely I'd have no one else do it except for you. Another reason Jumbo was really enjoying himself in America was because Barnum had about 30 other elephants. He finally had other friends besides Matthew Scott. But on the night of September 15th, 1885 in St. Thomas, Ontario, Keeper Scott was leading Jumbo and another small elephant named after Tom Thumb into their cages on trains after the show. And before he saw anything strange, Keeper Scott heard a train whistle, and he knew there were no trains scheduled for now. It was an unscheduled train, and it struck Jumbo and crushed Jumbo's skull in over 100 places, but did not kill him instantly. Scott comforted his best friend as he slowly died, and once Jumbo passed, Scott was so overwhelmed with grief that he essentially passed out into a deep sleep, and nobody could wake him for several hours. The smaller elephant of the accident was not killed. He only broke his leg. Barnum was notified immediately of the tragedy and instantly wrote to Henry A. Ward, the taxidermist. It took Ward 2 days to get to Jumbo, and once he was on the scene, he notified Barnum that he could make 2 versions of Jumbo. A version of Jumbo with just his skin, and extracting Jumbo's skeleton alongside. Barnum said, do it, and by April 1886, 2 versions of Jumbo were on display. And Barnum had his other elephants trained in like a funeral procession type show, where they were draped in black and trained to like pat their eyes with a tissue because they were crying. This is one of 3 places in the book where I sobbed. Poor Jumbo should have been in an African jungle living his life, and instead he was hit by a train in Ontario.